Hey, welcome. It's Chris Petri. Thanks so much for coming by. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be painting sailboats. What a wonderful subject matter. This is actually a photograph that I took at a friend's shop. He has a large maintenance shop. He runs a large condominium complex, and he has a huge shop with every kind of a tool imaginable and welders and torches and the whole nine yards. But in any case, he had some beautiful sailboats set up on the shelves of his shop, and I think he's into boating and sailboats and cabin cruisers and the whole deal. So I figured I took a picture of the shop photograph here. That's the shelves in his shop right there. So we can zoom in on this. So this is what we're going to be painting. Okay, that's the model sailboats he has in his shop on his shelf. And we're going to take this photograph and we're going to actually put it into a watercolor painting and just create a wonderful painting from the photograph we took in the shop. And we will have good results. So I'll zoom on back and you can kind of see we just used the photograph and recreated that photograph in watercolor. And it looks wonderful. And I'm hoping you're going to join along. We're going to cover every single detail you need to learn about how to create this painting. And also, too, I'm going to encourage everybody, if you don't want to do all the nitty-gritty details of everything we're doing here with all the hash lines and using a ruler and all these things, you can paint this in a much more looser fashion. You're the artist. So that's what's fun about my channel. I always mention, if you really want to take anything I'm doing and kind of do an offshoot and kind of do it in your own style and technique that you like to paint in, that's fine. Do it that way, too. I'm not saying that my way is the right way. I show you what I do, and I try to give as much information as I can about how I paint, but that doesn't mean you can't take this type of a painting and kind of create it in your own style. Maybe create it much more, loosely, maybe not as much layout and hash marks and things like that, but still get the essence of what I did here. And I think you'll have great success either way you go. So if you follow my plan here and my steps that I do all the way through this painting and this tutorial, great. If you want to do it your own way, please do. Have fun. That's all we're here to do, is have fun in watercolor. Enjoy the watercolor medium, which is just a phenomenal medium. We have a great time each week we get together. So let's start up here. The first probably half an hour to 45 minutes of my video is going to be pencil drawing and laying out the whole scene. No problem. If you don't want to do all of that, you can skip forward maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into the video, and then you'll see where we start to get completed with our drawing and we start painting. So you decide what you want to do, and from that point, it's all fun. Okay, so we'll see you in just a second, and we'll get started with the layout, design, pencil drawing, and then we'll get into the painting eventually after about half an hour. Okay? All right, we'll see you in just a second. All right, welcome everybody. We just saw the finished painting, and we're just coming back now. We're going to get started, and we're going to cover all the steps we need to get to the final painting that we did of these beautiful sailboats. So let's get started. So I'm just going to remove my custom logos there. So basically, we'll use some basic items. I think the main thing, we'll use our golden mean calipers so that we can kind of get some really good distances between our sailboats. So this is always good to have. This is made by Gelda, Jelda, Gelda. This is a really nice golden mean caliper. You can look up golden mean and do a research on that a little bit on the internet. But a lot of, all the great pro artists over time have always, a lot of artists have used the golden mean calipers. They started out years ago with wood, and now they make metal versions of these, but there's wood ones too. So I have some of the wood ones here too in my studio. So these are just great like all-purpose art tools that you can have in your studio that really will pay off big dividends, because when you're kind of creating your paintings, you can always make your painting look a little bit better if you use this ratio, and it stays the same. So no matter where you open up your calipers, it's always going to have the same amount of distance between each of these as you open or close it, so that you can actually make your painting a little bit more pleasant looking for the person that might be viewing your artwork. If you're just creating artwork for yourself, well, you might not have to worry too much. But if you're gifting your artwork to anyone or entering into shows, galleries, anything like that, definitely pays to have these golden mean calipers. Just a creative, fun thing to have, and you can kind of use it in your painting to just space things apart from each other using that ratio. And you can see it's a little bit, it's not quite centered. So we'll use it on this painting right, in just a few seconds. We'll work with this. And so I'll just remove some of the other things. We're going to use a pencil here. Let's get started with the drawing and laying out our painting. I have my phone here. So again, I'm going to use my photograph here from my friend's shop. He had his sailboat set up. So I'll use this photograph. We'll use this photograph for our reference. So this is what we're going to actually create our painting from, a photograph. And let me see. I think I'll use maybe an eraser, if I can find my eraser here. This way I can prop up my phone a little bit. The glare on my lights here is kind of giving me a problem. I can't see the phone correctly. So if I do this and put an eraser there, yeah, I can see that much better now. And I'll put this off to the right-hand corner here like that, just so we can kind of see. So it's on camera. You can see what I'm working from. And we'll have our paint over here next. The only issue I have sometimes is it's kind of difficult to keep moving around everything on camera here at my art table. So we'll just leave it at this. This is fine. So the first thing is we're going to actually just generally look at this painting and try to get some hash marks on our tape here. So you always hear me talk about that. We're just going to get some hash marks. So this will be what I'm going to do now. The first thing I'll do is I'll get some hash marks on my tape around my painting. So I put some tape down first around the border of the paper that I'm using. If it's a sketchbook you're working in, you can put tape on a sketchbook too as well. Or you might just draw a pencil line too. So you can always draw a pencil line versus using tape. If you don't want to bother with the tape, you just draw an approximate rectangle around your paper, just so you kind of know where you're working within your space that you have to work in. And let's go one step beyond that. Let's go to the next step, which is even better, and I hope everyone's going to do this, and I even have to remind myself to do it as well. I'm going to move this out of the way just a second. We're going to put down a mat. Now this mat is a standard size mat, and that means that as long as you paint within this mat size here, standard mat sizes that you can get at any big box store like AC Moore's, Michael's, any hobby shop. You can buy these online, standard size mats, pre-cut mats. These go inside your frame. Before you frame your painting, you put this over the painting, and then you put this whole painting mat inside the frame of your, a frame, so that you have a frame painting, a beautiful finished framed painting. So the key is you want to make sure that you have your painting at least the size of your mat opening here, the window of your mat. You want to have your painting at least that size, but you want to make it larger. So what I do is I take this, make sure I have the window of my mat here, which means I'm covered. If I paint within this rectangle, I know I'm covering at least this size, which is perfect. And I can just put that on and then put it in a frame, and we're all good. You have a frame painting. Perfect. You can put it on your wall. You can give it as a gift. You can present it to a gallery if you want to put your paintings in galleries, whatever it is. Now, the next thing I do is I just take a simple ruler and I make it a little larger so that I have a little more room to work with. So what I'll do is I'll just make my rectangle a little bit larger. So I want to paint a little bit larger than the window of that mat. So I'm just going around here. And then now as I look at it, I say to myself, why not just erase all the lines and make the painting the size of the tape that I taped down? Because the tape is good. The tape will be large enough that if I paint within the tape around my paper, I'm fine. But then again, not really, because if I want to be more exact, so that's why I'm going to do this. The window of the mat is the first line, and the second line is about a ½ an inch greater than that first line we drew, which is the actual mat opening. And then when we do this, we won't have any issues with things fitting in the painting correctly. So now we know we just create our painting inside that pencil line we just made, and I hope you can see that. And we'll go over it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to erase that first window that we made. That first pencil line was the opening of the mat. Then we said to ourselves, let's make it a little bit larger, another ½ inch larger than this window opening here with this pre-cut mat. Then we made that pencil line, and now we have that line, and that's what we do here. And now we can do this. And I'm just drawing this darker for you so you can see it and see how I did this. And like this. All right, perfect. Now you see the line I have here. This is where we have to paint to, pretty much, and then we're covered. We won't have any problems with putting our pre-cut mat on top of this and framing it right away. It'll be good to go. So we have that all set up. Now we're going to, again, talk about hash marks. And we're going to look at our subject matter, our shelf with sailboats on there. My friend Tom has a great shop with lots of interesting things there, and also his model sailboats here. So let's take a look at that and say, all right, so now when we look at this photograph, we can kind of see, we could crop out what's above here and just make it like this. So let's use... we'll just kind of like not worry about this top section here. And this is a shelf with a wall behind it. All right, so now we're going to say there's 3 sailboats here. Let's take a look and say, all right, yeah, these sailboats are actually set up close to what we would need them for the golden mean. So now we can take our calipers and just say we're going to make the masts. We're going to make just a little dash mark for where the masts are going to be for these. So you can kind of see already that we're going to kind of just, I think we can actually do this. So we can actually kind of work our way across the picture with these calipers, the golden mean calipers. And these are, again, made by Jelda, Jelda. They're the metal ones. They're small. These are perfect for anything like, like we're working here, maybe like 10 by 14 size. They work pretty good for that, or smaller compositions. So let's take a look here and we'll say, all right, I would say halfway is about here on this composition where the sailboats are. So halfway here. So I can make a halfway line here. So let's make a hash mark halfway. You can measure it if you want. You could take a ruler and just sort of, this is 12 inches here, so 6 inches is halfway. So then we're going to do 6 inches. Here's about halfway in the painting, which is about there. So then we can say that we could snug this over a little bit this way, and we'll say this is about that first mast of that largest sailboat there. Then from there we can come over here, and we'll get from in between there. We'll take this here, and so we're going to use the golden mean to do these other 2 sailboats, the masts. One there and one there. So that's all you need to do is just get a couple hash marks with your calipers. You get your first mast established here. So I kind of said that, well, if this is halfway in the picture, this mast here is about a little bit over this way from halfway. And it actually works out about this much from the right side of the caliper on the small side, the small distance on this side of the caliper. And so, and then over here we notice that each of these are basically close to the golden mean. So I just make that the same thing and say, okay, one first mast, second mast, third mast. And there you go. You have your 3 sailboats. You have your hash marks where your masts need to be here for your sailboats. And that's pretty good. So you have your masts all ready to go. And that determines the size of your sails and everything. So that's no worry. And then here on the bottom of the painting, you notice going across. Let's think that this is probably a quarter of the way. The first sailboat here on the left is a quarter of the way up on this painting. So if we take our ruler, you can use a ruler or you can just do it by eye. If you're good with kind of judging distances, you can say, oh, we're going to do 1/4 up is the top of the largest sailboat here of the 3. So let's do that. We'll go 1, 2, and 3 and a quarter. So a quarter of, let's, so 1/4 of 9. So I have 9 inches here. Let's use the metric system. That can be, if you have a ruler with the metric and the standard, American Standard scale, you can come over and use the metric, which might be easier to divide things with the numerically, doing the mathematics for it. So yeah, 24 inches divided into quarters is simple. 6 inches each quarter. 6 inches here, 12 inches here, 18 inches here, and then 24 inches here. Or if you go the other way, you're going to go 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches, 24 inches to the top of your painting. So now you have hash marks all set up. You have your quarters, 6 centimeters, 8 centimeters, or 12 centimeters is halfway, 18 centimeters, 3/4 of the way, and then top is 24 centimeters. So you have your quarters division going vertically. And then we said this one's quarter of the way up the top of this sailboat. So you got your quarter hash mark right here, 6 centimeters. And again, this this paper is approximately 9 by, so my actual working window that I'm working in is 9 by 12. So I'm working in a 9 by 12 window, exactly. And then I use the centimeters, of course, to get my space divisions. And again, I used the centimeters, and I started from the bottom, let's say, to the top and said, okay, 6 centimeters, 12 centimeters, 18 centimeters, 24 centimeters. That's quarters, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Then we said again, 1/4 up from the bottom is the sailboat, the top of the deck of the sailboat. And that's where our line can be for that. So we just do a little quick line like that. Light sketch line. Then we notice about a little bit below this quarter line is the other 2 sailboats, and they're kind of on the same horizontal line. So let's do that. Let's do 1 and 2. So now we have 1, 2 for these 2 sailboats, and then the large sailboat here. This one's a little bit like that. Okay. And then we look at the sailboats and we say, is there a lot of angles on the sailboat decks of the sailboat? And I say, not really, just a tiny bit. Can you kind of see that in the photograph there? In the photograph there, you can kind of see it. That sailboat is just a little bit this way, a little bit tilted this way, but not much, almost barely, hardly at all. And these are level. These are actually level across these 2 on the right, these 2 smaller sailboats here. They're kind of like level as far as the decks of the sailboats. And the masts of these sailboats are tilted, or let's say angled vertically. You can kind of see that, right? So this larger one here is angled this way, tipping to the right, and these 2 masts are tipping slightly to the left. So they're kind of tipping both in. Really nice, beautiful way this is set up. So makes our job easy here to make a beautiful painting. So, all right, so we've done a lot so far. Let's do one more thing here. Let's get our masts in. So again, we said that these masts are slightly tilted. So let's get this mast first onto the paper. Now what you can do is you can just simply take your pencil, hold it on the photograph. You might be working from an iPad or a phone or a photograph, whatever you're using. You could take that angle right there with that mast, and then you just hold your pencil and try not to move it. Keep the same angle and then just move it down like this over to this point. And you usually can get it pretty close like that. And then you could put your finger down there where the line is, and then you can sort of just keep that line in your mind and say, okay, yeah, it was about this much. And then you can come over here quickly and just do it one more time and say, okay, there's the line, the angle, the vertical angle. It's not straight, it's angled slightly. Take that line and just try to keep your pencil on that same angle and drop your pencil down like that. Okay, so we got it pretty good there. It looks pretty good. And then we'll take our ruler and just take that line and go right up to the top of our page, of our window. And we come right down here, right to the top of the deck of the boat, the sailboat. And there you go. We have our first mast. Okay, now we're going to get the other two, and we'll do the same thing again. We'll take our pencil and say, how is this one looking? This one's looking almost vertical, slightly turned to the left. So let's get that. That's easy. We don't have to really do too much. We just come over here and say, okay, that's vertical. That's pretty much vertical. And then you can just turn your ruler a slight amount and get that angle for the other mast. And you go right down to the deck where the boat is here, the sailboat, like that. Then you have your second mast there, slightly tilted. And then this mast over here is on the same angle. They're both evenly tilted, maybe this one a little bit more. If I look at it really closely, this one is angled a little bit more. So let's do that. Let's come over here and say, okay, let's get it straight and the same angle as this one first. And that's about the same angle. And then we just want to tilt it a little more like that. And then top of the deck of the boat, sailboat, up like that. And it's just about the same height as this one here. A little bit lower, and we'll put it there. And okay, we have now the three masts for our sailboats. Looks wonderful, beautiful. And we'll continue on. But we've done a lot of work so far. So that's where let's take a break. You take as many breaks as you need as we're going through this. Again, we've been working about 15 or 20 minutes approximately. That's plenty enough time, especially doing this grueling stuff with hash marks and angles and things like that. You can take more breaks in this first 20 minutes if you need to. Maybe you've been doing painting and drawing a long time. You may not need to take any breaks and you can cruise right through this section of what I'm doing here. But if you're, if you need a little more time, don't worry about it. Just keep your approach simple. Just work along with me here. We're all working together, and just keep following each step of the way. I kind of did each step, each process that we did first, getting the hash marks in the very, very beginning. Then we start working on where our sailboat decks are. And then once we get the decks, the tops of the sailboats, then we work on the masts. So we did pretty much a lot of what has to be done. The next portion is getting the sailboats in, the actual, bodies of the sailboats in, which is fine. And it's going to actually be models. So we're going to create the little pedestals on the bottom, and we'll put a paint can in here and there, and the little interesting details we see in the shop here on this shelf. Okay, so let's start back up again in just a few minutes, but let's take a break. Take your breaks as long as you need them. Maybe some of you might say, I'm going to do this one day, and then the next day I'll come in and do the painting section of or the painting portion of the painting. So you break it up into whatever amount of segments you need to create this and have a fun time of it and not get overwhelmed. Or you can take more of a loose approach and not really get too concerned about everything being placed correctly. You can kind of do this in a looser fashion. You can generally get some things in the right places and do your sailboats and have a fun time of it. And you don't need to get into all this minutia of all the angles and the golden mean calipers. But I'm trying to cover as much detail as possible for you. But you can do your own thing. You can just create this without worrying about incredibly detailed distances between masts, and if you get the general idea of it, you'll be fine. But I want to cover everything that I'm doing so you can kind of have the options if you want to do this in a more really methodical fashion and, get into the nitty gritty details of like what I'm actually doing. But again, you don't have to do it in that. You can just wait till we're done drawing all of this and then use that drawing to get your, pretty much close to accurate drawing in, and you can start painting with this, and we're going to have fun here. And we'll get to the painting in just a short amount of time. We're just going to come back and after a break and get the rest of our boats in, the bottom of our sailboats and the shelf and a few other details, and we'll be ready to go. Okay? All right, so let's come back in just a second. All right, so now we're continuing to work on our painting. We're doing our drawing first here, of course. I'm going to switch over maybe to a mechanical pencil. This is a 0.9 millimeter pencil. And you know what? I'm actually going to use a 7. So there's the blue. These are Pentel mechanical pencils. Pentel is my mechanical pencils of choice. They make great mechanical pencils. And they're color-coded, actually, for me anyway. So when I'm in my studio and I grab my mechanical pencils, or I always know, oh, my blue is my, 0.7, a little thinner pencil point. And then my yellow ochre color mechanical pencil, that's a 0.9 millimeter. That's actually, identifiable by my yellow ochre color. So whenever I'm in my studio, it's real simple. If I want a thinner line, I'm going with my blue mechanical pencil. If I want a thicker line, maybe if I'm using a larger sheet of paper, I'll use this. But we're using an average size piece of paper, like a 10 by 12. And so I'm going to use my blue, which is a 0.7 millimeter. So what I'll do is now we'll get started again back here. So I'm going to start doing my masts and kind of get those in a little more carefully. So I'm going to make the mast a little thicker, like that. These masts over here on these smaller sailboats are thinner. So I'm just going to make these a little thinner, but you can kind of see the lines. We got our angles set up before when we were doing all of our transferring our lines down onto the paper. Usually if you just kind of hold the angle, you can get it very close. You can get them pretty close if you just do it that way. Hold it up to the photograph, your iPad, your iPhone, your picture, your books. If you have some art books and you're painting from books, you can just say, okay, how's that angle? Oh, well, I'll hold it up to the book and then just kind of bring it on down like this to the paper, and that's it, and you have the angle. Okay, that's how I did it. Pretty simple. Now, we'll get the other mast over here for this. 3 masts, perfect. Now let's do the tops of the boats here. So now this one here, the stern of this sailboat is a little bit from the edge of the paper. So I could just kind of guess, not guesstimate, an estimate of that's about where the stern is. Maybe over here a little bit. And then we're just going to do, it comes down this way. And then we have a paint can. So I'm going to paint it like I see it here. I don't want to try to get too clever. I want to just make sure I try to get, so this is the paint can there. And it actually looks like I could go a little bit. I could probably make the paint can a little bit smaller like that. That looks better. And then here, if I look at my paint can, a little bit below halfway, here is the bottom, the keel over here, and that goes up like so. And then let's come over here. Now, I'll probably go up this way like that. And then I noticed that across the top of the paint can here is the beautiful trim that goes along the bottom of the boat, the sailboat, and it comes right up over here like that. And that's a trim and paint line like that. And then we have the top of the sailboat here, and it goes right over there like that. So I'm going to leave this over here right now. This intersects with the sail over here. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do this sail. So I notice now that this sail comes down a little bit below the bow of this sailboat here, and then it goes up like that. So this sail, and now with this sail here, it's on a little bit of an angle, and it's a little bit down from here. The sail starts about a little bit below the top of the mast here, and it's got a slight, and you can even do, you can use stencils, things like that. So I'm just going to do this, a quick little, like that. It's got a little bit of a curve to it. And then this is pretty much straight line right there. So let's do that. Like that. So you have your straight line here where the wind is pushing into the sail, making that a really straight line. It's got a little bit of a curve to it, but let's leave it pretty much straight. This has a curve to it here, so we got that little bit of a curve. And again, I always have my hand resting on the paper, and then I just use my pencil accordingly. And I think that looks pretty good. Now this sail ties into the bow of this sailboat here, and this sailboat comes right across like so. And then when it's about here, we have one of the sails of this sailboat lying down in front of the bow of this sailboat here. So I think we're getting pretty good drawing. So here I'm going to do the vertical line of the front bow of this sailboat. It's kind of a vertical line first, just for a little bit. Then it angles like this. And it angles down like so. Then about where the mast is on this sailboat here is where it's sort of the keel goes in like this. And then all of a sudden now we're seeing the pedestal for our sailboat. And these are model sailboats, of course. And so that goes about halfway across. From here to here, halfway is the front of the pedestal that we have here. That's attached, that the sailboat's attached to, that keeps it upright. And then we have the angle here. Like that. And then that goes across like so. Don't get super complicated and worried about every single angle and every, try to get things close as you can, and then don't worry about it. Now we're noticing that here where this sailboat is, the third sailboat over here, same kind of thing. The bow is straight down for a touch, and then it curves underneath like this. And then it goes down like this. And then right about where the mast is, which is there. So if we take that mast and we look straight down underneath that mast, that's right about where it kind of ties into the bottom of the pedestal over here. So then we have our second pedestal, and that pedestal here for this third sailboat is just a little bit in from the front bow of this sailboat. So we're going to do the sailboat here, curve it down there like that. There's the stern back here. And let's get this pedestal here. And this one kind of starts there and come. So we're let's do this. want to get this a little more accurate anyway. So this one is, we can use, again, use a ruler if you like to. Sometimes a ruler can be really good. And so I look in my my drawing here, and I can see that the pedestals are on an angle this way. So the pedestals are not like this or like this. They're angled this way, just a little bit though. So that's where we really look at our photograph carefully and say, okay, yeah, it is a little bit on an angle. Not a lot, but it is there, an angle this way. So then I'll just put these in like that. And then this next pedestal is on the same angle, but it's a little bit, this one here is out a little bit this way. So this one here is like this. And this one's pretty much like this. And then same thing, it goes like that. Angles back like this. Only thing is I made this too long. It should be like this here. And then we do the same thing like that. And we go back this way. Okay, so we have our two pedestals on the bottom of our sailboats. They look good. They also have let's do this. We have our pedestals and our sailboats. Now over here we have the stern of this sailboat, this beautiful red sailboat. And we have the line across. The paint on the sailboat is red on the bottom where the keel is, and then white on top with a red stripe. Red stripe there. And then we'll paint in the different little bits of shadowing under there to give it more shape. The round kind of shape that it has. It's got like a curved round shape underneath here by the keel. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We just want to get the basic idea of where the shapes are of the sailboat. So now this is a second sail. Third sail. So there's three sails on this red sailboat on the right-hand side. So this is a white sail, and it's kind of billowing downward, just lying upon the table here, like that. So we just do a quick bit of shape of the sailboat, the sail, and then there is a mast attached to that, and it's coming from the bottom of the mast, very close to the bottom of the mast. So let's do that. I'll use my ruler, and we'll go across there, and it goes a little bit beyond like that. And then if you want, you can erase a little bit, soften it up, that sail that's there. Now, I'll just make another secondary line just to give it a little bit of thickness to it. And then here we're going to start, let's do this. Let's get some rigging lines in. One there. One here. One there. So I'm going to do like 3 rigging lines, 2 here and 1 here. And then one more over here like that. All right, and now we're going to do this sail over here. And then what we'll do is we're going to work on this sail here, and then maybe this sail here that's draped down on lying on the shelf, and that'll be it, because we're kind of getting to a lot of detail here. But this one here is really fascinating. It's actually wrapped around, so you got like this, and then like this, and then like this, and then like this, and like that, and like this, and then like this. Like that. So I tried to get this the best I could. This sail over here on the right-hand side, on the very rightmost sailboat. So that's pretty much the sail over here. Then I can just get this a little bit more like this. Okay, and now we'll do one more. There's one more rigging line here. I'm not too concerned, but I'll get that in. And what else? We have this here. This sail over here on the front bow of this rightmost sailboat. So now this sail comes down like this. Like that. And it sets down right on the shelf here, like that, like that. Okay, again, we're doing a lot of detail work here. And again, you can make this a lot more simple than I'm doing, or if you want to get really into the details of this, keep working along with us here as we go. So I'm doing the full detailed version of trying to get this as close to possible. You know, pretty much like pretty close to a realistic painting of these sailboats on this shelf here. But again, you can do it more loosely. Don't get as much into all the details. Do it more of in a fun, free, flowing way. You do it your way. You're the artist. You do it the way you want to. Paint it the way you would want to paint it. And what's going to make you happy as an artist, I don't know. Everyone's different out there. You all have different styles and tastes and what you enjoy in artwork, and different artists you like, and different styles and applications of your paints and your washes, and you know how much you like to draw. Do you like to draw a lot? This is probably for someone that likes to draw a lot, you know. But if you don't really like to draw as much, do a simple approach to this, and not as much detail. Maybe as little as you need to just get the basic idea of what I'm doing. But in any case, we're having fun here. We're enjoying ourselves. Let's come back in just a second. We'll continue on, but I think we're already really getting a good drawing down now. Right now, we're sort of like most of the details are in. We have to do some details on this boat here with some more rigging lines. And then this boat here, we have to get our sails in. And but after that, I think we're really doing pretty good. And as I look here, I can kind of see, I'm going to kind of do this here. I'm just going to get this one section here. This is like so that's a support for the front of the sailboat, for the model sailboat here. And then there's a dowel here that goes in the back area, like that. And then over here we have maybe a box of some sort, and we'll just put that in. Okay, so we'll put that there. And let's do one more thing here. Let's get the bottom of the table, the shelf. So there's a shelf here, and it's just about above, it's just about there. So the shelf, so the shelf is just a touch above the sailboat pedestal here, and it's just a little bit above the dowel that comes across here underneath this sailboat here. And then it just, the main thing with the background, with the back of the shelf, Best to get a long ruler, make sure it goes all the way across the whole painting, and get that perfectly straight all the way across, and just try to get it, make sure we have it and that's an important, very important level line across the painting. And I think that's good. So let's come back in a second or two. Let's finish up our drawing. Shouldn't be much more than another 10, 15 minutes to finish the drawing, and then we'll get right into painting. Okay, so we're going to be right back in a second. All right, so we're going to get back and finish this drawing. Let's get back into the swing of things here. So the next thing we're going to do is we have this completed, this sail. I think this is where we left off. And then we're going to have some rigging coming down here from the top of this mast. And this goes beyond here a little bit. And I think the reason why is this stern of this boat, the second sailboat here is, goes beyond the bow of this sailboat here. So that's why we're going to have the rigging kind of extend back over here about halfway between the bow and the mast here. So right from the top, the very tippy top of the mast on the second sailboat, and then down to there. And these here, we're just going to leave these pencil lines hit and miss. Maybe you can do a little bit of dark and light. I don't think we're going to paint those in. And we don't have to do every single rigging line here. We can do and then we can do some hit and miss here. That looks good. That looks fine. Now, this here goes across. And then there's a boom going across here. From the mast this way, there's a boom here. We'll give it some solidity by making it, giving it a little bit of volume here. And I think that's good. Now, we do have some lines on this sail. Let's try to capture those lines on this sail. Like that. And then let's move up to these sails on the large sailboat here. So this one here, the sail starts here, and I think we can do this one by hand. And then I can use the ruler over here, and then I kind of look how much space between the top of the sailboat deck and up here. It's about that much there. Like that. And then we will start up here, and then we're going to get the very, very tippy top here. And this, there's a mast, a boom actually here. So this boom goes out about halfway between the edge here and the edge of the stern of the boat and the edge of the frame, the picture frame that we did. Halfway between that and the picture frame is the boom here. And it's a little bit above the stern. Not a whole lot, but about that much. And then we'll just get that angle like this. Like that. And we have that. So it's just a matter of working out the space divisions between each of your parts of your sailboats and your subject matter. You just carefully go and look, and I might have made this a little bit high. No problem. You can always grab an eraser. And so I think that this is a little bit too high. So I go here and say, all right, let me make another start of it. Let's make the mast start there a little lower. And it's not much, it's maybe only this much above the, so this is a little better like this. Like that. That looks better. It's more accurate to the photograph. Then we'll take the line from the tippy top of the mast, just a little bit below the top of the mast, over to a little bit in. So how far in is that mast attached to the boom? Well, a little bit in from the end of the boom. So then I put the little dot there. You put little dots here and there to do your drawing. And then we do that. Like that. So then now we have that line across for the large sail on the large sailboat. And then I think pretty much that sail is all set. And it's a little bit like that. And then we have this here. So this is the wood bottom and the keel, which is more of a wood tone, like a raw sienna. And then you have your like French ultramarine blue, Prussian blue top section here of color. And then here we have blue. This sailboat's blue and white. And I can see right now that that is pretty straight. That line that goes across the paint, where the paint is on the bottom, where the keel of the boat is down here, that's pretty much a straight line across, and then there's a stripe that goes across the boat, a blue stripe like that. We're going to get that in there. This one has a red stripe going down, very fine red stripe, and then it's red at the bottom. And there's that little bit of a swale there where the hull of the boat is. And this one's kind of dark. We don't see that much shadowing under there. It's dark, very dark. And then there's some darks on the top of the boat. Little bits of details. We'll do that with our painting. So no worries. Don't worry about the fine details. You can do that while you paint. Okay, so and what else do we have? I think we're pretty good with our drawing, I believe. I think we'll leave it at this. And we're going to start our painting now. I might just make this a little bit of a, like that there. So sometimes I'll take these long straight lines that I did with a ruler and I'll put a little bit of a curve to the curvature to the lines, the straight lines, and then I'm just going to put the lines across here for the sail. We're going to put those in. Maybe we just leave those pencil lines. It's possible you can just leave pencil lines on your, like that. And then You can just leave pencil lines on your drawing, and those will show through when you're doing your painting, if your washes are light enough and transparent enough. Okay, so we've done a lot of work now with our drawing. Of course, again, if you want to leave things a little more free and loose, as a watercolor artist, you have that ability to just paint it the way you want to paint it, draw it the way you want to draw it. You don't have to follow this tutorial exactly as I'm doing it. I'm kind of doing it the real, strict way of just, trying to get pretty much a realistic look of exactly what I'm seeing here in the photograph. And then if you don't want to get as much realism into your painting and you want to do it more loosely, that's fine too. You can just actually, get the essence of what I'm doing by just maybe doing some very, very free and loose outlines and drawing of the subject matter here, but in not as much detail. So you wouldn't maybe be using the ruler as much and doing hash marks everywhere to try to get everything real exact. You might just do a more simple approach to this, which is fine. Again, you're the artist. You'll create this the way you want to, but I figured I would, again, do the details of everything so that you can kind of see how I approach my paintings in this way to get this outcome of trying to get this pretty much realistic to what I'm seeing here in this photograph. All right, so we're almost ready. We're ready to paint. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come right back and we'll start the painting. Okay, so we're ready to paint now. Let's get our paints all set up. I have my typical palette here. Let me move some of these things here. Okay, so I'm using my normal Schmincke palette with my colors that I usually use on an ongoing basis. You've all probably seen my videos on my palette. If you haven't, you can always look up Chris Petri palette. You just type in Chris Petri palette. And my name is really easy to spell, C-H-R-I-S-P-E-T-R-I. If you type that into YouTube, Chris Petri, and then you type in palette, you'll see all my palette videos where I cover all the different palettes I use, but I use this one most frequently on YouTube. And what I do is I usually set up my palette here on my table. I have a board, a masonite board with foam on top of it, so eighth inch masonite board, and then 1/8 inch foam board, and I glue those two together with double stick tape, and I have a nice board, and then I put a 2x4 up top here on the top of my table, so I have a little bit of pitch going this way. Not a lot, but a 2x4 on the top here where my board is sitting on the table. And I always use the carpet, that tacky carpet rolls. You can see that in, you find this in any like home furnishing type stores and like kitchen and bath places. You find or even in like any kind of big box stores like Macy's, Sears, and all that. They usually have this carpet roll, which you put underneath carpet or rugs, and it keeps the rug from sliding. So it's like basically a roll. And I always put this under all my masonite boards. I double stick tape it to the bottom of the masonite board. This way my board doesn't slide around when I'm working on it. And what else do we have to do here? Well, I'll tape down my palette a little bit. So I usually take a little bit of tape and I just cut a couple pieces of tape like so. Some artist tape or basically, artist tape works good, masking tape. And I just tape my palette down so it doesn't move around. Especially on video, that looks really terrible when your stuff is sliding all around the place. So this is good and snug and tight, doesn't move around. We have our paper taped down, so that's all good. Let's start painting. I'll grab some brushes here, so maybe I will take a look at my brush selection here. And I might use this. This is a number, what is this here? Let's see if I can, I've worn off all the, that's a Charles Reed watercolor brush here. And it's like a 3-pack they come in. So this is like the smallest, I think, of the 3 watercolor brushes that come in the 3-pack. Charles Reed Signature Series watercolor brush. I'm trying to think of the... it's a Skoda travel brushes. You can really see, these are really easy to find. It's like brass. These are travel brushes. You can close them up if you're going to go out and do some outdoor painting, or if you want to travel a little bit, if you go on vacation or business trips. You could take your brushes and you stow them real easy like this with the, like that. And you can throw them in a backpack or a briefcase or whatever, pocketbook. And then you can just open them up quick, the brush, snap them together, and you're ready to paint. And then when you're done, you just close it up, stow it in. It's got a little hole in the top for air so the brush dries and no mold will form. So these are great brushes. So let's start out with this brush, and I'm going to get some fresh clean water, so let me empty my water bucket. And I usually have a some kind of brush. I usually use a fan brush or like an old watercolor brush or something, and I just take my water and I just stir around the water. If I haven't painted in a couple days, I stir around the water and then I empty it out. Now it's a clean water bucket like that. Then I set it next to me on the table and I just add my water to my bucket and I'm ready to paint. So let's see, now we'll use this smaller brush because I think we're going to do alla prima. So we're going to paint alla prima now, which basically is really a fun way to paint, and it's really kind of like the most straightforward way to paint. You start painting your painting, and you're probably going usually for your darks first. So if you get your darks in first, then it's a little easier to judge your middle tones and your lighter tones, your lighter washes. So I'll do that. I'll start out with the darker tones, and I'm going to go right in straight paint. No water really, just a damp brush, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and a little bit of burnt sienna. So I have like a warm and cool dark, maybe a little bit of some Prussian blue, a little more burnt umber, burnt sienna, and I think we have a nice dark there. And then I'm going to go right over here, and I'm going to start at the stern of the first sailboat, and I'm just going to go carefully and I have my hand resting on the paper, of course, and I just slide my brush across, and I press down on my brush so you see my brush hairs are fanning out as wide as I need it as I go across here, like that. And you just fan it out as wide as you need it to get that coverage. Then I rinse off the brush, and then maybe I'll use some paper towel or tissue to take a little bit of water. So I rinse my brush off, dry a little bit of the water off the brush on a tissue, and then I kind of just continue on here. Then I can go in and get some French ultramarine blue if I want, add some of that in here. So you can adjust your colors. But I want to keep it dark, like the photograph here that's very dark. So let's just keep it that way. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so this is our sailboat, our first sailboat, the largest sailboat. And that's pretty much the really dark painting on the upper part of the boat. The stern section and the bow, like so. And then if you want, you can always take your tissue and blot up a couple areas just to get a little, maybe a little bit of variation if you want. You lift up a little bit of, like that. You could add in a little bit of raw umber too to warm it up a little. But then you're going to go with your raw umber underneath. So let's do that. Let's take our raw umber. So now we're just going to mix our next section over here. Raw umber. Maybe we have a little bit of raw sienna or yellow ochre over here. Let's use those two. Raw umber and yellow ochre I think works fine. Now what we do is you can even take a little bit of this mix, which was the blue, French ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, burnt sienna, burnt umber, kind of that mix here. And you can add a little bit up here to just make that a little darker. So you make a little dark section up here. So you're having your mixes that you are creating as you go, and you're trying to match what you see here. So I'm going to match here and say, okay, well, it's kind of darker under here. And well, I guess that can is, it's never too late to adjust something. Let's make that paint can go up to here where it is in the painting. Like that. So, okay, so we have that there. That's going to be red, that can. And it's pretty much, that can is a cadmium red. And a little bit of maybe alizarin crimson to just change up the red, you know, make it a little interesting. And then we'll just do that. We're going to make that can over here red. And then add a little bit of that in there to blend it. And again, we're losing edges here. So and I'm going to just create the and what I'll do is I will do some of that detail in a second over here with the writing on the can here. This looks like it's probably a paint of some sort, or so let's leave that like that, and we'll a little bit of yellow in there too, and then there's some squares on there at the bottom. So I'm just going to try to keep it close to what I'm seeing in the picture, photograph. There we go. And I'll let that dry, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. I leave that as it is, and then I continue on here with the sailboat. Let's keep working that. And that's kind of a darker, like that there. Raw umber and a little bit of that mix there, just to get some darks. And there's a dark there, and it goes across, and like that. Dark there. And there's a little bit of raw sienna maybe in here. Okay, looks good. And then this is and then we have a dark under here. It's like a shadow there. And then let's just move right along here too. Let's get the shadow started over here, because we're just going to try to connect things if we can. Let's connect our subject matter here like that, and then I'll probably add a little splashing there just to loosen up a little bit, and that should be good. And there's some dark over here. Okay, so now we're just connecting up some shapes here. Our boat platforms and our sailboat platform over here. And I think what we can do now is we can do, there's a little bit of a shadowy, kind of a shadowy look there with some, so I will just kind of try to blend in what I am seeing in the picture. Like that. And then what else are we going to do here? So let's connect our shapes and connect our boats together. So right now, let's move to a little bit of a larger brush. And let me look around here. Okay, this is the largest of the set of 3. So again, this is the number 10 Escada travel brush. And so I'll go with the largest of the 3. This is the smallest, and there's a medium size. I have that somewhere over here. So let's rinse the brush, get some colors going here. So what I'll do is now, I'm going to try to do this blue. This is like a purplish blue. So let's go with a French ultramarine blue, a little bit of purple, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue, cobalt blue. I rinse my brush off, dry a little bit of the water off on a tissue or a paper towel or a sponge. I'll take a little bit of this, just kind of add a little bit of the darker color there, just to gray this down a little bit. And let's try to get that wash in there looking good. So I'll just try to use my whole brush here like this. Good point on this. So this has got a good point yet. And there we go. And then I'll just sort of get that wash on this sail. And I paint all different directions just to give it an interesting look. Maybe I'll add a little bit of that gold color in there. Warm and cool everywhere, so let's add some gold and maybe raw umber or some yellow ochre here and there, just to modulate the colors a little. And I'm going to leave that as is, like that. Then, next, we're going to add a little bit of that blue and purple to this underside here and to the table, again, to just harmonize the colors. So if I'm adding blue over here in this sail, then I'm going to start to come over here and do the same thing, add some of that blue over here in the painting. Try to mix it around a little bit. Just be careful. I always mention be careful when you're adding washes to your paint on your watercolor painting. You know, you have to let the sections dry, so you're better off letting things dry before you add in colors. But it's best to always do a little test spot first and see how it goes, but that looks pretty good. And add a little bit of wash to the table there, which is some of that red, like that, and some of the yellow ochre. And a little bit of splashing. Okay, texture. Texture is really important. Try to get some texture in your painting. All right, so now we're moving along pretty nicely here. We have some shadows in, and we're tying our subject matter together. Let's work over here. I'll move to my smaller brush again here. This is probably like a number 4, Escada Charles Reed Series travel brush, number 6 actually. Looks like a number 6. I think it does say 6 on the handle here, or number 4, number 6. Smaller brush here. Let's get this dark blue in there. So again, we're going to kind of stick with these colors. French ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of French ultramarine blue, a little bit of Prussian blue. Get that really good dark in there of the dark blues, and let's do that. And then we'll use the point of our brush to get that nice point there, and then you're gonna pretty much straight paint, not much water for these darks here that we're doing. And then we're careful not to paint into this sail. There's a sail that's draped over the front of the third sailboat over here on the right hand side, so let's make sure we don't paint over that. So that's there. And then why not, we'll do the pinstripe on the boat. So this here is very carefully, we just go a little bit at a time and go across. I would stop at a few spots. I wouldn't kind of connect every line there. Maybe like that. That looks pretty good. And okay, let's continue moving on here. Let's take some of our reds, which is cadmium red and alizarin crimson and a little bit of rose madder. And let's start, and then maybe we'll add some cobalt blue here and some purple. So kind of like you're going with the feel of a cool and warm. So red and then warm colors, blue, purple. Maybe mix in a little bit of the raw umber and some of the darker over here, the darker blues you have already mixed. You can't go wrong just using the same colors you already have in your palette to make additional washes that you might be working on in your painting, because then you're using the same colors, which is going to harmonize, so that's always a good thing. So now I'm going to get these lighter washes. This is a lighter, I start off with my lighter washes of the pink and the red here, like that. So that's light, and then we'll go in with the darker washes for the shadows once that dries, and then we'll take a little bit of the grayish colors there, which is over here for the top of that sail. And there's a little more red there at the top. A little mystery shape there. And then over here we have more. We have the same red. And this over here is very light. So this is where we try to make this as light as possible. Rinse off the brush, dry off the brush, and use a damp brush to get your lightest lights. And then we have some more here. We have some more, it's like a pink and red color here in the center of this fold of the sail. And then we have some more over here, some more pink and red, and some more over here. So once we get that lighter wash in there, we can let that dry. We could even smooth that out into the background a little bit here, like that. And then we'll get some of the darker washes once this dries. So let's leave this be, and we'll come back to this in a little while. Once it dries, then we can go back and do some shadowing. And then what else should we do? Let's do the darker reds of the bottom of this hull of this sailboat. So we're going to go in and get some cadmium red, alizarin crimson, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, cadmium red. Let's get some really rich, beautiful reds, some alizarin crimson. And let's get those reds in there right away. And this looks like under here, it's going to be a little darker maybe. So first we get the medium color of that red. That's like a medium red, like a cadmium red, mostly, with some alizarin crimson, like that. And then we see in the picture that it is a little darker, so you can grab a little bit of the darks over here, mix it in with that red, and then you get your shadow color underneath this. And you just kind of get that shadow under there like so. Like that. You can even go in, get some more shadow color, and you infuse it right into the wash right away. Like that. And then back here is that's the shadow on the wall in the background. Okay. And then some more shadow over here. And some raw umber there too. And again, some more raw umber here. Like that. And that's looking good. All right, so we have quite a bit of washes on right now. And again, we're doing the alla prima method. So everything is looking pretty good. We have our darks and a lot of our, even we're starting in with our medium tonal values. This is a light tonal value. This is a medium tonal value. And then you have your dark tonal values here, here, and here. And this is pretty dark too. This is pretty much a dark tonal value. If you were to squint your eyes and look at this painting, you'll see that this red is actually quite dark. If you squint your eyes, you'll see it's a darker tonal value actually. And the same thing over here with this red. And so let's continue painting. Let's see what else we can do. Maybe we'll work some more on our masks. So this is pretty much dry up here. So you know what? Maybe we'll work on this over here. Yeah, let's work on the sails over here. So I'll make some of that dark red, and we're going to get some of these darker. And there's some dark shadows here, like so. Like that. And then maybe I'll blot up a little bit of paint there just to keep that light in there. Like that. And you can always add in a little dab of exciting color, exciting reds here and there. Just a little bit. And then what else do we have here? A little more red up top here. Like that. And a little bit of a and if you ever create a brush stroke and it doesn't look good, you just erase it with a little bit of water and blot it up, and it's pretty much no problem. It's kind of works itself out. And then we'll take some more raw sienna and just get maybe a little bit of a mast here. These masks are kind of white, but let's make them raw sienna in this painting because we're going to try to harmonize our colors here a little bit. So I'm going to add that raw sienna here and there. And what else do we have while we're working here? Okay, these I'm going to I'm going to leave those pencil lines for the most part. We could do some darker darks. So we've been working a lot, actually, for the last 15, 20 minutes, even more than that. We've been working 28 minutes. So let's take a break, okay? Let's take a break. We'll come right back. We've been working a long time, and we'll get started again. All right, so there's nothing like the glazing technique. You can kind of see we're working through our painting in a real methodical way. We're basically starting out with our darks with alla prima, getting the darkest darks, as you saw, with our painting here across this boat, the first sailboat. Then we kind of transitioned over here and got our medium tone sail. And then we worked over in here and we got our darker sailboat, the hull of this sailboat here, our second sailboat, and our third sailboat. We're doing the darkest darks in the painting, the most exciting, impactful looking colors and shapes in this painting with the darks first. Then we started working in some lighter tonal values over here on this sail. And we're going to start to maybe work with some more middle tones here in this sail. These sails here on this large portion here. I'm going to empty my water, start with some fresh water. Maybe I'll try to work on that little bit of a... I just had a little bit of an issue where I swiped my brush across this. This shouldn't be a problem. And again, if you ever have an issue with a bit of a spot on your watercolor that you're not happy with, that you might have made you just add some fresh, crystal clear water to it, get it on the paper, wet up that area where you have maybe a brush stroke that went, kind of went off, off track, and you didn't want to put it there, and that's fine. You just wet the paper, fresh, crystal clear water, and then you get either paper towel or tissue, and you just blot it up, and it disappears, basically. Sometimes it might be a little bit noticeable, but most times you won't even see it. And we're going to put some shadow back here anyway, too, so that shouldn't be a problem in any case. But I like to kind of just show that as we're doing things here. So what I'll do now is I'm going to stick with working with the photograph, and let's create some beautiful raw umbers here for these sails here. So we have some raw umbers there. We'll mix in a little bit of darker shadows over here, and then more raw umber over here, maybe some raw sienna, and fresh clean water, maybe a little bit of blue. We want some blue in there, so let's make some blue over here, some cerulean blue mixed in there, maybe even a little bit of red in there. Okay, we're trying to harmonize all the colors, so a little bit of red in there is going to look good with the cerulean blue. And let's get our raw sienna here, and let's just start. And then here you have some fun. Here you have a large area of sails. Just have some fun with that. Get your sails in here, and they're just large sections you can just kind of fire in the paint. Then, as you do that, then you can go in and grab some of those little bits of grayish tones and get those in. Same thing here with a little bit of those red. A little bit of that bluish red. So now you see we have a gorgeous sail color. Lots of different colors in there, interesting. Maybe a little more blue there. You have to get that blue and that additional wash in quick before it dries. That looks good. Let's continue on here. More raw sienna, raw umber. And I'm just going to rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water on a paper towel, sponge, or tissue. And I do a lighter wash here, like that. Then maybe a little bit of darker wash here. Like that. And then some blue. bit of a shadow in here that goes right on up there. And then let's go right into the background here. This is the shadow of the sail, like that. In the back here. And a little bit of splashing, never hurt anything. Okay, so that's some more cerulean blue and a little bit of this darker mix there. Like that. Okay, my shadow's a little bit high here. I'm just going to leave it. I made my shadow a little bit higher than what's in the picture. But you can't have perfection pretty much every time, so you don't worry about it. And just start to have fun with this. And then here, we're going to get the shadow of this sail over here on this side. And that's going to go over here. Like that. Like that. So that's the shadow on the wall behind. Then I see if I move this over here, I see some shadows up here, so let's get those in. Raw umber, raw sienna, alizarin crimson, too. Raw umber, a little bit of our mix there, a little bit of the grayish mix here. And I'll come down here and try to make that a little bit more raw umber. It seems to be more raw umber, raw sienna than anything else, but I do want some of these other colors in here. And then we just do that, and then we sort of, let's get that wash in there. Shadow, that's a shadow going across like so. And then some fresh clean water here, and let that just flow on down. Fresh clean water, tap it on down there. But there is some light over here, so let's leave that light over here. And this is like that. Okay. And we have some more of that shadowing over here. Let's do that. Cerulean blue. Raw sienna. Raw umber. Okay. You can paint right out of the picture. And then I'm going to get some more shadowing up here. You can see that. A little bit of grayish color, splash. Like that. Okay. And some more of that shadowing over here with some gold. And this is shadowing over here under the sail. Like that. Same thing here, shadows under here. shadows under here. So I'm just kind of taking all that shadow color and going in here. Reds, blues, purples, whatever mix I have here, grays. And I try to just leave some of the lights that I see here. So here is where I try to stick with the photograph as much as possible, but I do keep in mind that I want to keep some more maybe white paper than maybe I can, that I'm seeing here. And there's some more red here, and there's some more like that. And then some gold. Like that. So I try to get some color on the paper. Okay, I think that's looking really good. Let's let this dry now. That's the most important thing now. You've added a lot of washes to your painting. You've gotten your shadows in, your background colors, lots of water, light washes. We just let the mixes work themselves. Nothing wrong with making really light washes from all the mixes that you've used and created already in your painting, because if it's a really light wash, you're really not going to nothing's going to stand out and look awkward. It's going to all kind of harmonize and blend because you've already used all these colors in the painting. So that's really the kind of the great thing about watercolor is, as long as you've used all your colors in your palette that you've used in the beginning of your painting to start out with, like let's say in the alla prima method that we've used here so far, you can use those same colors and mix some gray washes with, mixes of like reds and blues and purples and golds and things like that, raw umbers, raw siennas, yellow ochres, cerulean blues, some French. You can kind of mix all your colors and get some of them lighter washes on your painting, and it looks really good actually because it's all harmonized together. All the colors we've already used throughout the painting, so when you add those in a lighter effect or a lighter wash, it really blends in nicely and looks really good. So I'm hoping you're having fun so far. I always mention, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. The button is right there on the right hand side. You just click subscribe. All it does is you'll just notice that the next time you open up YouTube, you'll see some of my videos in your homepage, so you won't lose track of me, because we're getting here together every weekend and creating paintings, having fun, just creating new paintings in the watercolor medium. So as long as you're here every weekend and you're practicing a little bit and following along with us here, and even if you're maybe don't have enough time to paint and draw, you can always just watch the videos and you'll learn a ton just by watching. You'll hear the same terminology, the same types of methods and techniques we use, the colors, all of these things you'll just eventually commit to memory. And that's a really big help when you're painting watercolor. You kind of want to learn all the little tidbits of information and all the nuances of the medium, because it'll help you a lot to create more beautiful paintings if you want to actually, keep going down that path of trying to create more beautiful paintings and getting a handle on the watercolor medium. It's great to know all the terminology and the colors and the different techniques that we use and the methods that we use throughout our work here. So let's come back in just a second and we'll finish up our painting, okay? Okay, let's finish up our painting. We're actually right there now. The last thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of details to the paint can. There's a little bit of a shellac or some polyurethane or some sort of paint can here. So we're going to finish up some of that writing details on the can. We're also going to add some details to the masts and the rigging and some of the top deck parts of the sailboats here. So we want to get some of those details on the top portion of our sailboats. So let's go in. We're going to grab our raw umber and then some burnt umber, some raw umber, some cerulean blue. So I'm just going to kind of create some colors here. We have some reds, maybe some alizarin crimson over here too, so we'll get ourselves a nice array of colors here. But mostly we're going to stick with the raw umber, a little bit of raw sienna too, to get our wood top side of our boats here. And that's really going to look great. And I rinse off my brush a lot and just tap off a little bit of water on a tissue or a sponge or my apron, whatever I have. And then we'll just create some just indications of some of the wood for the tops of the boats here. Just like that. And you can blot up a couple areas. Add a little bit of red in a couple areas too. It's always nice to add lots of different colors and mix all your colors together. Harmonize things like that. And then the same thing over here. Some darks over here too, some French ultramarine blue maybe. There's some darker darks over here too. And again, no need to get too detailed. Just get some shapes in there just to kind of to let the viewer know you haven't forgotten about the tops of the boats there. And you can blot up a little bit too. I think that's good. You might make some breaks in those lines so they don't all look the same. That looks good. And then over here, we could add some rigging. So here, I'll just add some rigging and some chain blocks and things that they have on these. Like that, and then there's some there's some other rigging up here, so it's always nice to kind of put those little bit of details in there if you can, here and there, and it'll go a long way. And I think that's pretty good there. Okay, next, a little bit of that raw sienna, raw umber, French ultramarine blue too as well. We'll get a little bit of that darker dark. Let's get some of our mast in here. I'll put this over here. And I try to just add a little bit of detail. This is the main mast here, so I want to sort of get that main mast on this sailboat. Even if it's a really light wash, I want to kind of make that a little bit noticeable so you can kind of see the main mast on this. Like that. Like that. Good. And what else do we have here? We have this mast and a little bit of a shadow under there, under the bottom. And then there's another bit of some rigging there. right, that looks pretty good. What else? And a little bit of shadowing under here, under this here, so we have that little bit of a sail over here. And we'll put a little bit of wash on this side of the sail, like that. So you can kind of see it. And there's a little bit of a bit of raw sienna here just to blend into that red. Okay. Now, we could add just a little bit of like that. Just to get some of these rigging lines. You add a couple quick and it kind of feels like there's some light catching on these, and then let's add some raw umber here and some raw sienna. Okay, so now I'm pretty much, I think I'm going to just do a couple more details here. I think we're pretty much, we have most of what we need here completed. Let's do a couple of the light fabric that's on the sails. Let's try to get those, do a little bit of the, we'll just do some, I think just a little bit like that is fine. You already have the pencil lines on here, so a lot of these are fine. You have pencil lines. You might accentuate a few of these seams in the fabric of the sails. You don't have to do every one, and I wouldn't create straight lines all the way through. I would just do hit and miss. A couple lines here and there. Might look just good, just right. A little bit here and there just to kind of catch the eye, and it'll lighten up a little bit too. So once you're done putting on some of these lines on your sails, they'll lighten up a little bit so you won't see them as much. And then you can make a little darker wash, maybe just for a few spots here and there. Very, very few, just a couple. Once in a while, just a very few, like this. That, and I think that should be good. So we have our sailboats, we have the shadows behind our sailboats on the wall. We have a beautiful painting here. Everything came out really fantastic. So let's take a look, really from a standpoint of, we have really a beautiful painting where we have darks. We have some really, really nice darks. We're painting this alla prima. Darks first. We got our darks here across the way, the 3 sailboats, and then maybe we'll do a little more details here. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. Dry off the brush a little bit, and we'll just try to maybe get some writing on these, just a little bit of and then we had some more bit of blue for some shadows, maybe over here. A little bit of shadow along the bottom of that can there. Bit of a paint can we have in the studio here. And there's another. All right. The only thing I think we could do is maybe a little shadowing on our pedestals here. And there's a little bit of shadowing too on the tops here where the boats are. And a touch of shadow under there, but I think most of the light is actually and I think that's good. And then maybe a little bit of I'll try to get a little bit of accentuation here with some colors. Some blue. That looks good, the line across there. All right, that's it. We're completed. Hope you had a great time. Hope you had fun here on this painting. Again, some beautiful sailboats. We can always take a little bit of time here to peel off the tape and kind of just see how it looks. When we peel off the tape, you'll see a little more of a border. It's going to look pretty good. But for the most part, we'll actually put a mat on top of this, and you'll see how it really helps to put your lines down first where your mat's going to be, so that when you're done with your painting, we could just move our palette over here to the left, and we could set our like that. And then we have a wonderful, this is just a gorgeous sailboat painting. I think this really came out fantastic. We took our time. We did the alla prima method. We just kind of followed the blueprint, which is we used our photograph, right, like that. We used our photograph, and you can't go wrong if you're working from something like your phone, your iPad, your home computer, your TV, or if you're working from a book, let's say an art book, or some photographs that you might find that you have in your archives. You might have some saved photographs, whatever it is, whatever you're working from. You can always have a really great end result when you just stick to the plan of looking at the photograph, trying to get pretty much everything the way you see it, the lights and the darks. And you can kind of see how we did that there. We got the darks of the reds and the dark blues for the sailboats here first, doing alla prima method, which is just go right into the painting and start getting your darks in. And then we did our middle tones, the sails here. This is like a kind of a darker middle tone. And then some lighter tones to finish up with the background washes too, really, really light. And some details here and there. Some rigging with some dark bits of subject matter in your painting to kind of like add sparkle to it. And, you know, just a fantastic and fun time we've had here. So thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate everybody coming by and painting along with me. We've had a good time, and we'll see you on the next video, okay? And I always mention, again, if you haven't subscribed, right on the right-hand side below, there is the subscribe button. This way you follow along with us each week and have a great time painting and just enjoying the whole fun of watercolor. Okay? All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.